From the bowels of the Smith Center in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, this is TargetIllustrated.com. I'm THI staff writer Jacob Turner, and alongside me, as he usually is, THI publisher Andrew Jones. And Andrew, about 45 minutes ago, we heard from Roy Williams ahead of Carolina's game against Boston College tomorrow. We're recording this on Friday, obviously. But the biggest news coming out of the press conference is Cole Anthony, probable to return. So Roy Williams told us hasn't played in about 7 weeks. I think the 7th week mark will be next Monday. So it's been a long time since we've seen him. Andrew, he's practicing. He practiced yesterday. He's practicing right now as we speak through those doors. What does this return mean for this team? It's been a long time since we've seen him play, like I mentioned. Carolina's struggled. I think they've gone 4-7 in the time that Cole Anthony's been out, obviously on a 2-game win streak, so it was 2-7 at one point. What does this return mean for this team?
It's huge.
Absolutely. I think
it's huge because they desperately. That's it. Videos are it's huge.
Thanks for watching,
it's huge for them. It changes them dramatically in so many ways. He's their best player.
Yeah.
19 points a game. He had 3 10-plus rebound games. He had 8 assists a game. He had 4 steals in a game. I think when he went out, when he got hurt, he was kind of reaching a point where he was kind of overcompensating because they were struggling even before he went down. But he's still that guy, and we've watched him the last 9 games. The first 2, the second and third game that he was out, he didn't go on the trip out west, so he wasn't on the bench. But he's been on the bench the other 9 games, sitting next to the coaching staff when injured guys are usually at the end. In fact, it was kind of funny the other day. I kind of felt bad for Jeremiah Francis. He's on the end of the bench, and Cole's sitting next to the coaches. But there's a reason behind that. Roy said today that he really feels like he's gotten a lot out of that. He's learned a lot, and he sees the game the way they're seeing the game, and he can hear everything they're saying. So
biggest cheerleader over there.
So one of the parts of his game that needed to grow when he went down was up here, just up here at the college level. So he's seen that. So I think it's huge for this team. He's been an amazing cheerleader for these kids.
Absolutely.
He's been unbelievably supportive. There are no chemistry problems off the court with this team. So they're reintegrating a guy who was their best player when he went down. The kids care about him. He's shown that he cares deeply for them. He's been, like I said, unbelievable cheerleader on the bench for these kids. So this is a huge boost to these kids on a 2-game winning streak to then welcome back one of the best players in college basketball, a likely high lottery pick next summer. So who wouldn't be thrilled to have a guy like that back, especially one in the backcourt who can get you buckets when you need buckets, and they haven't really had that kind of guy other than him.
Yeah. What kind of team does he rejoin, AJ? Because obviously before he went down, Carolina they had beaten some good teams. They'd also lost some games where you're kind of like, okay, we're still trying to figure out what this team is. Obviously, they struggled a lot in those 11 games that he's been gone, 4-7, like I mentioned, basically 2-7 before the wins over Miami and NC State. So completely different team. This team is looking a little bit more confident over the past week or so than they did. I mean, it was bad at times, really. AJ, what kind of team does he rejoin now that he's likely coming back tomorrow against Boston College?
They were so Cole dependent when he was playing, and they became increasingly so, which is why I think you saw the performance against Ohio State and Virginia before he went down with the injury, in which they really struggled. Their half-court offense started bogging down because they became so Cole dependent. What's happened in the 2 months since he was down is that they couldn't be Cole dependent. I think they clanked around a little bit, certainly against Wofford. They had some good stretches against Gonzaga and UCLA. And that was with Anthony Harris and Jeremiah Fred. Okay, we're starting to find something, and Harris goes down, and they've had to go through an emotional roller coaster since he went down, losing Harris. Leaky missed the Wofford game. Brandon Robinson comes back, he starts playing well, and the next thing you know, he's in a car accident. I mean, it's been a revolving door of who's Doug Halverson visiting with right now.
Honestly, that's what it's been like,
But they have found some things in the last few weeks. I think if you go back to halftime of the game at Pitt, that they just kind of maybe hit rock bottom there and loosened up. They started working their way through the clouds like we talked about the other night in Raleigh. And I think he's coming back to a team that is a lot more confident as a group separate from him than they were when he got hurt. Garrison Brooks is averaging 19 points and 10 rebounds a game, shooting over 50% since Cole went down. Armando Bacot in the last 6 games after he dealt with his own situation with the injuries, he's averaging 14 points and about 9 rebounds a game since in that stretch. Brandon Robinson, even with the car accident in the neck and the other night,
playing phenomenal,
he point to a part of the body the other night, and I'm sure it hurt for B-Rob. He was in pain. He's averaging over 14 points a game, shooting much better. And Leaky Black is playing better.
Yes.
Get this. He's hit a 3 in each of the last 6 games.
That's an AJ stat right there.
And then in the 7th game, you go back, he didn't even attempt one. So in the last 7 games, he's attempted a 3. He's hit at least 1.
Yep.
He's playing better. He's seen the floor better. He's going to be a better teammate on the court with Cole when he comes back. Brooks is playing all ACC caliber. Baycott's starting to look like the guy that we thought he might be.
Yeah.
He's certainly matured as he's dealt with his own problems in the season, the injury and everything else. B-Rob is looking warrior-like. You got Leaky doing he's doing. Andrew Platek has settled into a role. Roy knows this group a lot better now than he did when Cole went down. And so when Cole comes back, he's just got to play well and play with these guys. It may take a couple of games, but this is a huge addition to a group that was starting to play some decent basketball. This elevates them significantly.
Hey, so let's talk about Carolina's NCAA Tournament chances now going forward. You obviously put a really good piece together yesterday. Make sure to check that out on THIillustrated.com, where you kind of crunched the numbers, kind of looked at the scenarios that could get Carolina into the NCAA Tournament. Now that they've got Cole back on a 2-game win streak, back to 500, I mean, I guess you could feel a little bit better about this. A big week coming up, obviously a trip to Florida State, and then playing Duke here in Chapel Hill, not to mention Boston College tomorrow. So that's going to be kind of a make or break week for Carolina. But I mean, you have to feel a little bit better about Carolina's NCAA Tournament chances now that Cole's likely to return, and now based on how the team's playing as well.
Well, the fact that you can talk about it is, I mean, it wasn't on the radar.
No, we kind of
a week ago.
We didn't know, no, not at all.
And you know, I look ahead at travel budgets and everything else, and well, you know, hey, we might spend a lot of money on recruiting this off season because we won't spend it in March. We usually spend a ton in March.
Yeah, tournament.
There is a chance that they could work themselves into a very favorable position. First of all, the NCAA committee, if they play well now that Cole's back or will soon be back, they're going to evaluate this team more on what they were with Cole than without Cole.
Yeah, they have to. Yeah.
Now, keep in mind, they picked up a couple of Q1. They picked up one Q1 win without Cole, and if Yale continues to win, they could have gotten 2 Q1 wins without Cole because winning NC State's a quad 1 win. The key is to pick up some quad 1 wins and build that NET rating. Right now, if you look at ESPN's bracketology that came out this past week, the lowest rated at large team is 65 in the NET, and that's Tulsa. Carolina's 93. But think about what they got the next week. They're not going to be helped by beating BC. It's just a win. They go to Florida State and they host Duke. They got to get one of those.
Yeah, they have
Duke
to,
might be the more likely one because it's home, the emotional component.
Tallahassee's a tough
I think
place,
Carolina might match up a little bit better with Duke than FSU because the way that their length and the way they defend is going to be an issue. But moving forward, there's a lot of winnable games on the table in this league that we talked about a couple of times. I did something a few weeks ago saying lots of winnable games out there. But you got to win at Notre Dame. You got to win at Syracuse. You can't drop the home games. You got to beat State a second time. You got to beat the Wahoos. Got to figure out how to score against those guys. So it's there. And they're certainly going to be judged a little bit differently with Cole. And remember, before Cole went down, they had 2 quad 1 wins over Alabama and Oregon on neutral sites. So they have an opportunity to work themselves in the NCAA tournament. But if they lose tomorrow against Boston College, this conversation goes away.
It's gone.
Because then they reach, especially with Cole playing 30 minutes, and they reach a point where they just got to win out, basically. But it's there, especially in a year where the fence is going to be ugly. There's a lot of crap out there. A lot of really mediocre teams. And Carolina has been one of those teams so far this year. But with the club playing a little bit better, with a lot more confidence than these kids have had in a couple weeks, and I told you the other day I thought they were a lot looser.
You could tell.
Andrew Platek said that today. Certainly this club is in position that if they play well, they can work their way into the field.
It's going to be interesting to see how things play out now that Cole Anthony is probable to return tomorrow against Boston College. For THIillustrated.com, I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. Obviously, we'll be here covering the Carolina game in the Smith Center at 6 p.m. tomorrow night. It's going to be a fun one. We'll see how Carolina goes ahead of a big week. But thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to like this video and be sure to share it if you enjoyed it. See you next time.
Thanks.